Oftentimes, I do talk about the spiritual journey of returning to the continent in the midst of the context of other things that I share. But in this video specifically, this is a spiritual journey. And I want to talk through it because it prompted me to do some Googles. And I created something just for you and for those that are entering into this spiritual journey wherever you are. But specifically, if you have an interest in relocating to the continent, you're going to want to watch this. Welcome to the channel. My name is Ashley. I'm the founder of the Afrika Investors Academy, which is a community of entrepreneurs all over the world that are building location-independent businesses for the growth of Africa. On my channel, I talk about my experience of living and doing business here on the continent of Africa, specifically here now in South Africa. So if that sounds interesting to you, please be sure to subscribe to the channel. And I want to talk through the spiritual journey of returning to the continent of Africa. I Googled some things, and there are stages that happen when you are going through a spiritual awakening, so to speak. And I don't think that these are in any order, because the spiritual journey is not linear. It is very much a journey, right? It is literally like, you've seen those memes on Instagram of life, like, right? It is not linear, meaning just beginning to end. And so these are some of the steps that happen. And if you have experienced any of these, the likelihood of so is that you are on a spiritual awakening, seeking the source of your suffering, questioning beliefs and expanding your worldview, interest in spirituality and mysticism, contemplation and self-reflection, surrender and accepting the present moment, dedication to a spiritual path, connecting to the divine, and then moving into service. And that last one for me really hit home, because that's what I'm doing through this content, through the Afrika Investors Academy. It is definitely a service business. It's not something that I thought I would ever do, but I'm doing it because I have embarked on this journey. So I want to talk about this as it pertains to specifically the continent, and why it is so important that you embark on this in some way. Wherever you are in your life, but it's important and we need to get on it, okay? And so for me, seeking the source of my suffering, it was a lot. My suffering was so strong at the time of me deciding to move to the continent that I wrote it out. I literally made a big whiteboard on a big piece of paper and started writing out the sources of my, at the time, depression. And I came to a conclusion that as long as I wanted to self-actualize, I could not be my full self in my fullness authentically in America, not in the corporate spaces, not in the public spaces, not in the private spaces. I had to conform to the society that I was around, that I had bought into, that I had uplifted, that I had celebrated, that I had sold to people. You can go back to some of the videos that, like, from when I first started this channel, which it really wasn't a channel, it was me storing my videos so that I wouldn't lose them. But I used to work for a vodka brand and many alcohol brands prior to that. And so I realized that the source of my suffering was the environment that I was in all ways, right? Professionally, personally, spiritually. It was all making sense. And that's when I started questioning my beliefs and my spiritual system. I started questioning, like, all of these things that I thought I knew. You know, my love for Atlanta. I'm talking about F-I-L-A, Fila, like ATL up, peace down, like A-Town up. Like, I was so Atlanta. I worked in the chamber. I was selling Atlanta to corporations, selling Atlanta to talent, selling Atlanta everywhere. I was questioning that now. And thus expanding my worldview, I decided to move to the continent. And my journey didn't stop there. I did get really deep in my spirituality at the time. As a Christian, I was in praise and worship a lot. We were all locked down in the house when I decided to make this move, and this was in 2020. And so I'm talking about, what is Kanye West? I mean, Fred Hammond. I think Fred Hammond and Kirk Franklin did like a verses. Kanye West had come out with his album not even a year beforehand. I'm talking about I was deep in praise and worship and crying, sobbing. I mean, I've got videos from that time where I was just in my suffering, understanding the source of it, and contemplating and self-reflecting on all of the things that were happening and that had been happening. And I won't say that I got to a place of surrender in the midst of probably the hardest time of my life, when I was fighting to be in Africa, which is actually when I started this channel, and accepting that I had to go through this journey to really achieve what I desired to achieve in that time, which was to return back to the continent. And I accepted the present moment while I was committed to my spiritual process, my spiritual work in that time. I'm talking about journaling, affirmation, vision setting, decisions. Affirmations, did I say that? Acceptance, spiritual baths, journaling, I said that, candles, all of the things. Talking to my ancestors, acknowledging them, thanking them, seeing them, identifying them, recognizing them, saying thank you. Those things were turned up in the midst of it. And I was connected to the divine, as I am currently. When I returned, and even while I was here on my first experience prior to the madness that ensued to really push me through my spiritual awakening, I was in my divinity. I was in it. And I oftentimes have to tap back into it because this journey is so spiritual. And as I mentioned, not linear. And, there is a deep shift happening spiritually all around this world, where those that are tapped into the divine, those that are tapped into service, those that are on the path, right? There is no further along than the next, but on the path and walking in that and affirming themselves in that, believing, knowing that they see themselves in that. There is, where there is doubt, where there is question, there is kind of this separation happening. And I'd say that this trend of migration to the continent is no coincidence. This is spiritual. And if you ask anyone who has made this journey, they will tell you the same, even if they don't tell you that it was initially spiritual. And oftentimes what I'm seeing is men, right, that kind of maybe deny that, where I know the women definitely see it, right? This is a spiritual journey, and yeah, it's necessary. It's necessary. And the process looks different for all of us, but man, I'm telling you, within those first couple of years, you're gonna go through it. So strap up, strap your boots on and get ready to go through that process, because it will test you. This journey of awakening in any space will test you, will test your fortitude, your resilience, your strength, your commitment, your dedication. And it done tested me. So I created this free download on my website. It's called it's a 22-day challenge of healing, right? So 22-day healing journey for embracing the continent of Africa. And I want to give it to you because I know that this journey is a process, and I encourage people to embark on it prior to them leaving the continent of where they are now, especially if you're in the West. And it's something that I revisited the other day and just realized that I didn't even share it with you. So it's my gift to you as you embark on your journey, spiritual healing, wherever you are on that journey. It's a great thing to refresh. It's a great thing to put into your repertoire whenever you're feeling down, whenever you're feeling guilt, shame, sadness, grief, anger, confusion. That's a big one. Concern. When that discernment is, doing something, tap into this healing journey for embracing Africa. I think you're gonna love it. And if you resonated with this video, share it with someone else who would love it as well. The link to get that free 22-day healing journey guide is in the pinned comment below. Access it, share it with someone who would find value in it. They'll be so happy that you did. Until the next video, I'll see you soon.